Hello and welcome to Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is March 19th, 2024, and we are staring at charts yet again, taking a look at Bitcoin here to start with on the daily. And we are getting that meme-based pullback that we talked about last Friday, and then of course again in Monday's live stream. So the meme pullback is not really a meme. It's more of the general pullback in terms of percentages that we have seen since Bitcoin has begun its bull run from the lows, and that being the macro lows here. Now, to start with, we are going to take a look at that again because it is very interesting and it's still coming in roughly the same area that we talked about on Friday and on Monday. So let's go ahead and get rid of the monthly and weekly support and resistance, and we'll outline some of the conditions to review what we talked about in the last live stream for the breakdown to this area that we see Bitcoin trading in right now around, well, roughly $63,000 now, but the low did come in at 61,500, just missing that monthly that we'll take a look at in a moment. Now, we do see that from swing to swing of this current move up, after breaking above and closing above this consolidation where the highs were coming in around that consolidation around $50,000. Now that was a big weekly zone. And then just above that, we had this short-term pit stop for Bitcoin that was in the low $50,000 region, around 50,500 to 800, to the top side there that we're going to look at in just a moment, again at 53K. Now, in terms of percentage pullbacks from swing to swing, we have seen, around 21%. Now, I could go through and measure this, every single pullback again to show you, but you can do that yourself on your chart. And we did do this on Monday's live stream as well and on Fridays. So this is not exactly new. About a 20 to 22% correction was possible, and that was the meme pullback in the market here. We've got a few memers in our group here that were looking for this as well. And although I am not totally sold on it hitting that number repeatedly, it does need to meet conditions, right? Is it possible? Absolutely. And that would bring things right to the weekly upper first standard deviation at around 20 to 22%. That also falls on the 618 retracement from swing high to swing low on the weekly here. Now, could it go lower than that? Yes, and I'm going to explain why here on the daily chart. So we're going to flip back to the daily real quick, and we're going to look at a few different things here. Now, Bitcoin is, to be quite honest, in what I like, what I like for a setup, and that is, nice expansion to the upside, and then run the bands basically, and then get a bit of a range look on the band. So we had the nice expansion to the upside, a little bit of a pit stop to come back to the basis band, and then expand further up, put in the new all-time high, and then come back down to somewhere around the lower first, lower second, and have the bands kind of space out in a bit of a range look. This is what I like to see in price action when it comes to volatility levels. So we are kind of right in the sweet spot at the moment, but there is the potential that Bitcoin does meet conditions to fall further. Now you can see right here that we do have this swing low over here, that if Bitcoin were to break down from at around $60,000, then we are most likely looking at that 20 to 22% being fulfilled, and maybe more. Now, when you look at daily structure below that swing low, we do have that $53,000 level, with the low side coming in around 50,500 to 50,800 at the monthly. So if we go ahead and turn on our our weekly monthly support here, well, we can see that, we have things lining up really well here in terms of structure when it comes to previous highs and lows in the market on closes and swings. In this case, Bitcoin did fulfill what we were looking for further downside, and that was a breach below on a time frame that's significant below the daily. This happened on a 4 hour, and we'll take a look at that in just a moment. For me, that was the significant close below 65K that did it, that kind of said, okay, this is ready to move down, and at minimum test the high side structure over here at 62.5. It did get a nice lower term time frame bounce there. It even tested around that 64,100, 64K before dipping down into 63.5, 62.5. Tried to bounce around there, did bounce around on the lower term timeframes and run back up to 65K, and it failed. And when it failed, that was the second criteria of confirmation, was the 4-hour breakdown from there on the close open, and then a failure to reclaim. So that's where we start looking at the next big monthly level. That's coming in at 61,350 to around that 58.8. Now you can see the lower second standard deviation of the daily is splitting the difference there, coming in roughly at 60,200 currently. That is a viable target with the daily close below the lower first standard deviation now, which is coming in at 63,650. That is to say also that if Bitcoin begins to trade above the daily lower first standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands, that it's likely going to go back for another retest at $65,000 at minimum, and could even bearishly retest up to the basis here around 67K or even 69K. It does need to get above $69,000 in order to flip bullish again and break the daily downtrending structure. And in that case, we would be looking more than likely for the upper first here at around 70,500. Again, this is just going sideways from when we last looked at it. And then above there, I would look for it to run the all-time high yet again. Any closes above there, of course, then we're looking for 75, to 78, and then 80 and low 80s from there. Just take it one step at a time. We will revisit some of those further upside targets when we start the stream tomorrow. But, we need to see a daily low put in. We need to see a swing low first, and then a daily closing low, stuff like that. So this is going to remain pressured down until we see that. We can see that this is getting volatility expansion within the context of the Bollinger Bands, because it has ran from the upper first, upper second zone to the lower first, lower second zone. So it's maintaining high volatility. So that is, it's going to present a lot of opportunities, right? In this case, a nice short opportunity. And I'll be transparent with you guys. I don't usually talk about my trades, but, I did start just a beginning long position for a swing, which means that I'm ready to build that position out the further the price falls. So I am looking for price to fall further because it is a swing position. Of course, if it does turn here and begin to head back up, and I feel as though it's going to break above some of the key areas that I just spoke of, specifically $69,000, then I'm going to have to build that position on the next higher low. And it's more of a larger scalp trade, let's put it. But in this case, I'm ready to build in the areas that I'm talking about. And because we have met the criteria of that breakdown at $65,000, we are in what I would consider a building phase. For me personally, this is not financial advice. This is not something that I'm suggesting you do. You have to evaluate your own risk to reward. A lot of this is going to be account size dependent. And if you ever are building a swing position, I do have a bit of advice for you. Always make sure you have liquidity. Do not lock all of your liquidity in a couple of tranches of trades. You want to have flexibility. You want to have the ability to average that position down, because the expectation is that you are building on the way down, which means that you are building in a loss. And then when it does turn and that turning point occurs, you have your largest lot size in. Of course, not financial advice at all. Do your own research, all of that good stuff. But in this case, this is, an expected pullback. If it was going to be extremely bullish for an immediate bounce, it was going to hold here on the Sunday candle. And, heading into Monday when we were talking about this above the basis, if it was going to hold this area at 65K, it was more likely to go test the highs now. But since that area has broken down in yesterday's candle, Tuesday, even though it's still Tuesday for me and this video is being recorded on the day of Tuesday, the Wednesday candle is open. Of course, we will evaluate this in tomorrow's live stream, but in this case, I would be watching this monthly zone, 58.8 to 61.350. That's the big liquid area. If that area is closed below, specifically at 58.8, that is a daily close, you could pick a higher term time frame below the daily that you feel is going to give you the indication that it's going to fall further. But from there, I would be looking for a replacement, basically price running below the lower second and or closing there and breaking below 58.8 on a close has the potential to go hit, guess what? That would be the lower third. And let's pull out the measurement tool. And for all the memes and the pullbacks, well, that's exactly around 22, almost 23%. That would be a little bit larger, to be fair, than what we have observed in the run up during this phase of the market since early 2023 in terms of the 20 to 22% pullbacks, but it's within the expected deviation of that percentage pullback. So it would not be a surprise to me if it did hit that area after losing something like the monthly. Now, of course, this is conditional. It would have to lose on minimum for me a daily close this area. That doesn't mean that in between the daily, it doesn't spike down into those areas and then close right back in. If it did, I'd consider that fairly bullish, but probably still looking for a longer form consolidation on the daily. Which means that it would still probably have the potential to keep running that area. But if we did see closes below the monthly and we did see expansion, one of the things that you do need to be aware of is just because it's a meme number and 20 to 22% has been the average pullback for more than a year now, well, the real support on the daily below this area is exactly where the daily support is lining up with the previous historical support and resistance zones. So, any closes below 58.8 and 53K is possible. This was the last major area of resistance prior to running and making a new all-time high. So on the way down, we can see that Bitcoin is trying to hold this topside daily area after it broke 53K. We can see that it shot on the daily. In the lower term timeframes, it did consolidate a bit in the monthly zone, but it shot right through on the daily and then closed on the top side of the monthly closing all-time highs. So, the attempt to hold Bitcoin's price here, not abnormal at all. This was a previous area of consolidation on the lower term and the daily timeframes. So it is encouraging for bulls to see this if 53K can be regained. 65K can be regained up here. And then, of course, recover above the bases. 65,000 is here. We've got the basis at 67. And then, of course, I would want to see closes from there above $69,000 that then can go and take out 70,000 to 70,500 at the upper first. That is the conditional on a beautiful bounce side of things. So this monthly being front ran right now in, yesterday's candle run down into it and then the open of the Wednesday candle. This is typical in lower term timeframes. Had a nice volume coming into this area, but I'll be honest, not the volume that I want to see right now to maintain a bounce that is going to be strong enough to get up and recover at minimum above $65,000, which is one of the reasons why I took the retest short to size up my short position to a swing short. So I am swing short and long right now, but I'm willing to let the short side go if I'm not willing to build it, I should say. I'm willing to let that go if we do see that 65K ran again, as I have taken some profit on it. It was already a scalp that I turned into a swing. So this is, basically the bracket trade, if you will. And because despite what you're going to read all over crypto Twitter and crypto YouTube, we are still in a bull market. All right. These corrections are going to occur, and they're going to occur in the future, even after the all-time high gets taken out again and the halving and things just rip to the upside. If I had to equate this to any time period, I would look back here to the December candle in 2020. Just kind of to give you a reference, on the monthly time frame, we can go ahead and get rid of the support and resistance for a moment while I give you this a little bit of an anecdote. But what we did see in that monthly time frame was a run below the monthly upper second on the wick, almost to, well, to be fair, it was kind of far away from the upper first, but let's see where things are in the monthly right now. When you look at the monthly time frame, you can see that the upper second is not even within the range right now. So the upper second is actually below some of those ever important areas, and guess where it is? It's at the meme pullback number right there at $56,000 to $57,000. I would give it some room. 56 to 58 is roughly going to be the upper second meme pullback area. So those who have been looking for this, this is still in the cards. It's about a 23% pullback though to get there. And, I would not be surprised if it got there basically. But if it's going to get there, might as well wick below on the daily and hit that support at 53K, right? There's no reason, there's no technical reason why it can't do that. And this is still bullish on the monthly time frame above the upper first. So this is you're now going to see the crazy part of Bitcoin's bull market cycle. Bitcoin can actually come all the way back to 43,600 on the monthly time frame. Would it look great on the daily? Absolutely not. But it can come all the way back here and tag it and still be bullish. So as it stands right now, Bitcoin is still in an expansive posture on the monthly. There's nothing wrong with this structure. There's nothing wrong with this pullback. The sky is not falling, at least not yet. And right now, it's crazy bullish above the upper second standard deviation, right in the meme pullback zone. So, context is everything. Shorter term timeframes really get the crypto Twitter, crypto X, and crypto YouTubers going here with the really hyperbolic takes, to kind of call back to my video stream on Monday where, it's all... I don't even remember what I named it, but I think it was something along the lines of like hyperbolic takes, hyperbolic Bitcoin takes only, or something like that. Like, this is an expected pullback. It's a gift right now. And if it goes even lower, I do think that it's a gift. It's even more of a gift. And that's pretty rare in Bitcoin land. Typically most people get scared out of the markets at this point. And if it falls further, they're definitely going to get scared out of the markets and or out of position, and then likely be sidelined when Bitcoin gets ripping to the upside again. So not financial advice, of course. Anything can happen. Bitcoin could go to zero, yada, 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 all that good stuff. Anyway, on the daily, you can see that Bitcoin has now exited the bullish control zone of Stoke. And it has, in addition to that, has now landed on the close of yesterday's candle right around the edge of the bearish control zone. It's even printing red DMI. For those of you that don't know what DMI is, it's not really relevant right now. This is because I have on a paid indicator from app.crowntrading.net. No, I don't have any affiliation with them. But I use that for DMI and ADX and like other cool stuff that they have built in there. It is a paid indicator. If you are ever interested, you can go check that out. It's, Eric Crown has some developers he worked with over there. I'm just a big fan of their work, as you know, from especially the Caretaker and others like Morinfall, KVDB. Those guys are amazing. Now you can see that Stoke would cross back up. This is a free version of a Stoke that has momentum pivots. In this case, 70,700 is the momentum pivot. If you would like to grab this, just go up to the indicators tab and search for the indicator BA reverse Stoke, and just grab the panel version to get the actual separated panel, not the on chart version, which would just place the indicator on your main chart here. But that is going to be something to monitor. Now, my favorite leading indicator for the daily here is the 12-hour. And, I have mentioned this. I pointed this out on Crypto X or X.com, also in the Discord server, which is open to the public now. If you would like to join, the link is in the video description down below. But in this case, we can see that I had mentioned and on closes below $65,000 for the 12-hour, we're going to see expansion down to the next level of support. We did get that all in one go. The lower term timeframes, like the 4-hour, I'll show you in just a moment, were a leading indicator for the 12-hour, right? And in this case, we have 3 4-hour closes in the 12-hour. And we got a heads up on the break of $65,000 that was going to come down and test this top. And you can see that it did test this area here on the 12-hour. It even tested the high just below it here on that same 12-hour candle. So we had a bit of a zone there. And now the next area to test, should it fail to get above that high zone, is going to be, well, it's going to be me not hitting the caps lock button, but in fact the shift button. And we've got a nice zone here. So this zone of interest is, roughly around that, $63,000 to $62,500. Below there, we've got the close coming in at 61,230. And of course, that wick low into the monthly zone at around that $59,250, $60,000 or so. Now, when we flip on volume, you can see that these were important areas when it comes to volume. The highest volume wick that we had seen in a while for a bear candle came in this zone down here between around that 59,200 to that 61,270 area. And that's, when turning on the support and resistance for the longer term timeframes, you can see that lines up right in the middle of that monthly zone. So right now, playing on the top side of the monthly zone, if it can hold here, quite honestly, that would be more bullish than not, at least to go retest the all-time high swing zone up here, which is coming in at that 65 to 69K. You can see the lower first, and this is something that you do have to be aware of because this is a pretty powerful downtrend. So we've got, the higher high, lower, this was actually a higher low technically, but not on a swing. It was a lower low swing and then a lower high close. So we have full trend or completed trend to the downside into supports. And that is where you do have to be aware that it could bounce right back up. And unless it gets above 65K on the 12-hour and then above the lower first at around 65 and 300 to this wick high at just below 66 at 65, 769. There's the meme. So it could bounce even above there if it starts to fail in and around that area in the lower term time frames. It's probably going to come back down at minimum for a retest of this expansive posture. So at the moment, we are seeing expansion on this time frame. So let's go ahead and discuss some of that real quick here. And I do apologize. This is a little bit longer of a stream. This isn't a stream. This is a recording. But the main reason why is because some of you are just joining this particular channel and may not be familiar with the way that this type of analysis is done, that starts with trend and then incorporates support and resistance, volatility, and that creates the momentum. But in this case, because we have one of my favorite setups on the board for one of the longer term timeframes that might even lead into the daily still, but we have the closes below the lower second that initiate more aggressive expansion to the downside. If we do start to see price close back above the lower second and even start pushing the lower first to basis, I look for a retest of wherever the residual expansion, because what we'll see is the lower second standard deviation is going to keep expanding down as the upper first and upper second will start to expand up as well. But in this case, because Bitcoin is trading below the basis, we're going to get aggressive expansion to the downside of the Bollinger Band's close over close. But if Bitcoin closes above the lower second here, in this case, coming in at right around $62,000, we're probably looking at a lower term time frame bounce that could complete up to retest 65 or even higher there to the almost $66,000 range. But if it begins to fail there or fail at this swing high at around 68,900, that's $69,000. Remember, we talked about this just a little bit earlier in the stream. I need to see closes above there on the daily as well in order to be looking for this to go back and run the highs, lows to be in on a swing and a close, so on and so forth. So, the criteria is very clear. That would also be right around the basis band of the Bollinger Band. So if it fails anywhere in this lower first to basis, I would in general be looking for Bitcoin to come down and test wherever the lower second expands to. That could even be lower than this current area that it's in. It doesn't have to be equal lows. It can be lower lows. But it's basically looking for a retest. That's typically my favorite setup in all of the volatility band setups that I can present to you. And on the 12-hour and daily, it's even more powerful in my opinion to see that, especially if it begins to reverse off of wherever the lower second expands to. In this case, close over close is probably going to expand down into the $60,000 range, maybe even into that 58.8 monthly area and lower into $56,000 to $57,000. We could see that. In fact, it's more probable than not the longer the Bitcoin hangs out below the basis band here. So keep all of that in mind while I show you this. And that is that this is the lowest level that we have seen Bitcoin get on Stoke while maintaining its markup during this phase in quite a while. So where was this last momentum shift low? Well, this is coming in back here at $50,000. So we have a beautiful, beautiful 12-hour potential setup for momentum as well. You can see I've got a mess of things on up here as I've been, scalping and positioning and like all that good stuff. But in any case, we can see that for momentum specifically, this was back in February, and we are getting a lower low read on this right now. So it's already closed opened, and this would and could, as long as Bitcoin is trading in closing 12-hour candles when it completes a momentum shift above 50,500 in this case, this would be a momentum divergence, and it could possibly lead to, a hidden bullish divergence right around the bearish control zone, maybe even within the bearish control zone, of course, if Bitcoin does decide to push a little bit lower here into that big monthly zone. So I am excited, and I think that you should be too. Not financial advice. Do your own research. Find the confluences in your analysis, please. Don't just take my word for it. Get on the charts. Take a look at it for yourself. And you're probably, if you are coming from a different school of analysis, you're probably going to find more confluences than not with the analysis that I'm doing right now. Let's go ahead and push a little bit further into the lower term timeframes here so that we can observe the breakdown real quick. Discuss that for just a moment, and then I'm going to hop off here and leave the rest to be said in tomorrow's live stream. So let's go ahead and jump down to a 4-hour. We can see beautiful expansive posture. Now this setup did fail. One of those setups that I really do like, but you have to be in and out with bands, is the expansion, retest, bounce, and when it failed to make any kind of a higher high, whether it was on a close, did not get to 69,500, did not get to 70,650. That's where I took a nice scalp short, is when this began to fall apart here. Of course, the retest at 65,000 and above is where I turned that scalp short. That was, I was taking profits at this low and then into the supports that we just talked about a moment ago at $62,500, $63,000. I took the opportunity on the bounce from those areas to fill that short and make it a swing position for the possibility that it could, Bitcoin could test down further into some of those deeper targets that we just talked about. Now, in this case, it did bounce, got the expansion and then bounced, but it bounced to a lower high, failed around the upper first. This is something that I have talked to you guys about, but if you're newer, if it's going to maintain a powerful downtrend, it's going to fail at somewhere around the upper first to upper second And those are usually going to end up in an expansive posture, like in this case, a downside expansion. They're going to usually end up somewhere around the prior high that needs to be broken to change structure anyway. And then it failed right there. It didn't even get to the actual close open highs up here. So that was the big overhead resistance that it needed to get above on the 4-hour. If it failed there, well, it was more downside, likely at minimum to retest this area and lower if it lost that 65K, as that was part of the conditions that we were looking for. In this case, we can see that, it's getting pretty deep down there. For momentum, we've got 63, 280. So basically 63.3 is the number to beat to the upside to turn momentum back to the upside. We can see that there is no real bullish divergence right now from this particular RSI structure right here. It could throw bullish divergence between these two lows if it can set a low. I don't really like this particular one because this is swing low to swing high to another low. It would be, I would want to see regular bullish divergence put in on closing lows, because this was not a closing low. We have a 3-candle structure that did not close above the open here at 64,655. So it did, try to get there. It pushed above and got rejected. So I'm not looking at a closing low. It's simply a swing low to swing high to another possible swing low as it stands right now. But if it did start to close above that open and specifically take out this wick high, then we can start looking at targets a little bit higher. Just be aware that the 4-hour is still in a downtrend from a closing position if this were to occur. Basically, if we were to see closes back above 64,660 and then see a close back above 65,769, we would be looking at a 4-hour low. But in terms of closes, yes, we would see the swing structure broken, the downtrending swing structure broken, but we would want to see this high on a close taken out, and that's at 68,500. The spike there at just under where? Guess what? That's $69,000, and then we still have further criteria to meet in order to see price rise above that area. This is in an expansive posture to the downside currently, so I would want to give it a little bit of time to work itself out to see what happens here. Now, of course, I do want this to push lower to pick up some of my swing position or more of my swing position lower. As I do, me personally, I do view this as all opportunity, but in this case, 63,280, if it starts to close above there, we would see an initial cross back to the upside. You're looking for that then to follow up the next 4-hour closure to complete a cross to the upside while putting in or trying to put in a low. And in this case, I want to see it closing at minimum above 64,380 and then taking out that 64.5 to $65,000 and try to regain in there. Again, all of the conditions from the higher term timeframes though still apply. That 12-hour, it could still fail in the $65,000 to $67,000 area. That's also valid for the daily as well. So keep all of that in mind. And I'm going to discuss more of this stuff tomorrow with you guys. We'll see where price is when I'm, doing the live stream. We'll evaluate what's going on, and we will review what I talked about in this video today. So you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out.